Welcome back to the Next Chapter CEO podcast, where we talk about building business and a life that matters, especially to you in your 50s, 60s, and beyond. I'm your host, Laureen Quick, and each episode I sit down with trailblazing women and thought leaders who are redefining what it means to be an entrepreneur in midlife. Here we talk about what purpose you might have in running your business, as well as the profit of running your business. And our goal here really is to inspire you and to give you strategy as much as touch your soul in how to create something meaningful without burning out or without selling out. Today, I am thrilled to welcome Kristen Franey, a coach and strategist who works with founders, healers, and disruptors to help them turn their visions into reality. Kristen takes a non-traditional approach to business, weaving human design and intuitive guidance into practical strategy. Her core message, "You are the strategy," is a powerful reminder that your business does not need to be built on somebody else's blueprint. Instead, the most effective strategy is the one rooted in who you are, how you work best, and what you truly want to create. So, whether you're starting something new, reimagining your current business, or simply craving more alignment and ease, this conversation, I believe, will give you permission to stop chasing the shoulds and start building from your own inner compass. Kristen, welcome to the show. I'm just going to jump right in and ask you my first question. Your message, "You are the strategy," is bold and, in my mind, very refreshing. It, especially for women who have spent years following someone else's rules. What does this whole idea, this concept mean to you? And how can women shift this way as they approach business?
Mhm. Well, thank you for such an amazing introduction. I have goosebumps from all of the things that you have just said. I'm kind of or I'm on a mission to build a group of people that are disrupting how we do things. And I think as women, especially, we are conditioned and our lives before, we're taking care of other people and we're told how to do things. And society has very specific ways that it expects women to behave. And we take all of these things on board from society, plus from our family, plus from our own beliefs and what's worked or what hasn't worked. And ultimately, we start performing or behaving in a way that is kind of very conditioned, right? Like we can't help it. We can't be making decisions about every single thing that comes up, and we get into habitual responses.
Mhm.
And often that means that we're then limiting ourselves, or we're feeling like we should be doing things a certain way because that's how everybody else has done it. And really, maybe it's what worked for us 20 years ago or 30 years ago, or it works for somebody else who has a totally different life, but it's just not going to work for us right now. And what I found is the people that I work with are really creating something that is out of the box in some way. They are a trailblazer within their community somehow, whether that's within their family by starting a new business. A lot of times their families think they should just be, stick with the day job, or, don't create something. It's too scary, and it's too out there. And then that starts to play on, well, who am I to do this? Even though as women, we have an awful lot of wisdom and we know our stuff. We're just taught to kind of downplay it. So I think, a big part of the work that I do is helping women see the power that we do have, that internal compass that you said, the power that we do have, and that inner knowing, and where we stop questioning ourselves. Um, One of the big things I think is that any strategy will work or no strategy will work. Like they have all worked for someone out there. There is nothing wrong with any of the strategies. The most important thing is finding the strategy that works best for you and where you are in your life, and overcoming the blocks that are telling you that you should be following someone else's wisdom instead of your own.
I love it. I love it. Listen to that inner self.
Hmm.
When you work with founders and healers and disruptors, what do these types of entrepreneurs share in common, and how might their journeys inspire women in their 50s and beyond who are either starting or growing a business?
Mhm. The people that I work with are all looking to grow a business, to make an impact, to create a change. There is some need that they have seen that doesn't exist in the world. Often they're healers who are looking to work with people who are very similar to who they were 5 years ago before they had their big breakthrough, or they're founders of businesses and platforms that they've known. One of the That's two women that I was working with recently. They're building a platform to help caregivers of aging parents, because that whole world is shifting, and they didn't have that support as their parents were going through this. And so, it's people that are generally building something from their own personal experience that they can see a need within the bigger societal context. And they know that they want to do things differently, right? Like we don't just want to keep doing the same things over and over and over, and we want to have a purpose, right? So we want to make that impact. We do have a purpose, but we want to help other people through our experience and our wisdom. And so everybody that comes to me generally is trying to create something that's a little bit groundbreaking, in some way. And the traditional standard stuff just isn't working, or they feel that they're not being heard and seen in the traditional ways of working. Because what they're doing isn't really very traditional.
There's a little bit of a rebel spirit in them.
Definitely.
Okay,
Definitely. Yeah,
cool.
I call my folks the quiet revolutionaries. So there's that rebel spirit, but we're not necessarily the ones that are shouting through the megaphones, but we are the ones that can see the challenges, and we want to be part of that solution, and create the solutions. We might not be the loudest about it.
Yeah, and what I love about what you just said and is basically every woman that I've met who is over 50 that's in business, they are doing what you just said in the sense that they're doing this work because they want it to have an impact on the world or a community or a society. It's not just about making tons of money. They're very purpose driven, and they're also very wise because they
Mhm.
have decades of experience behind them. So they do, in fact, see what you have also said about your clients. They see that the way is not necessarily the way we should be doing this now. They're
Mhm.
open to the idea that there are many ways. As I like to say when I'm hiking, all roads lead to Rome, right? So it just matters that you're on a road. So you have a strategy that works for you, and it will get you where you want to go. Excellent, excellent. Next question. So, you also mentioned when we talked earlier that you bring human design into your work. Can you talk
Mhm.
more about what exactly that is? And also consider how women over 50 can use that to be more authentic in their work and also more aligned through their business.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a little fanatical about this lately. So I looked at my human design years and years ago, and it was just sort of there, like, your star sign, you're a Libra or a Scorpio or whatever. And I just sort of sat on the shelf of my stuff of things that I know. Human design, though, as I've learned more about it, weaves together a lot of ancient wisdom and cultural traditions like the I Ching, the Kabbalah, astrology, and modern knowledge about how we can literally change our beliefs. And so, what it works to do is understand how we best behave and operate within the world based on our own design, um, and how we have potentially been conditioned. So, as an example, well, oftentimes when we're faced with making a decision, we're told that the best way to make a difficult decision is to weigh up all of your options and make a list of pros and cons and be really logical about it. And not everyone operates that way. And some people are generators like me, and we tend to have like a gut response, a gut reaction to it. And we know immediately when we see something, it's either a hell yes or a hell no.
Mhm.
That doesn't relate to everyone. And so somebody can be telling you, well, you'll just know, you'll get a gut feeling and you'll sense it. But For somebody else, they don't understand that way of working at all. And they might be much more of an emotional processor. And so for them, they might then need to weigh up all of the emotions, sit with it, think about, not all of the logic, but all of the emotional things. And what is this telling me? What do I need to know about this? How do I need to behave? What do I want to know? What's coming up and what are those emotions? So they might need some more time to make a decision, whereas a generator might make it really quick or look like they've made it really quick because they knew straight away. And it also tells us more detailed things like how are we best, how do we work with other people, right? Some people are solo entrepreneurs. Some people need to work in different groups and environments and have, communities that they feed off of. And other people that's really draining and they don't like it. And so what it helps to do is to give voice to and give language to and give acceptance to a lot of those things that we've said are wrong about how we operate because we've been told that it's wrong to operate that way or that there's a better way to do it. And to accept that that's just innately and naturally how we are and how we best perform. And then create strategies that support that thriving and support that way of being. So one of the people that came to me recently, for example, she's stepping into a thought leadership role, and she's always been behind the scenes. She's very well spoken, very articulate. She's now a COO of a startup that is looking to support people and working on wealth redistribution and all sorts of things. And it's big, right? Like she's being asked to go on to, major speaking contracts or making major speaking gigs and, CNBC and all sorts of things. And it's scary for her because for her, she has some stuff, from when she was growing up and getting in front of people and being on stages doesn't feel comfortable. So we looked at her design, and her design says that she prefers caves as an environment. And so we looked at, okay, so how can you still see these big speaking opportunities as smaller situations? Like, how can you thrive within what this is? How can you almost reframe it? Or if you're looking for speaking engagements, how can you look for ones that are going to naturally feel more comfortable instead of saying, I have to be on a stage in front of a stadium of people, because that's not what's comfortable. And so it really gives us the ability to kind of collapse the time scale of all of that trial and error and to just say, okay, well, this is me. This is okay. Like I can accept that this is how I am and how I will best perform. And let's find strategies and solutions that are going to bring out the best in me instead of me trying to get good at the stuff that I'm not already good at. Like, how can I get better at the things that I'm already good at and naturally inclined to do?
It's kind of like I'm a square trying to push myself into a circle
Mm-hmm.
hole.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, okay, instead of worrying about the circle hole, let's go find a square hole that
Exactly.
works for me.
Yeah.
And that would take a lot of self-awareness, and creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And acceptance, right? Because then it's just saying, okay, well, this is how I am. I'm not going to make myself feel wrong anymore for
being a
my worldview. Exactly, for being a square. Nothing wrong with squares. This
I'm,
is a
I'm not
square.
gonna I'm not gonna go on a diet to make myself into a circle, right? Whatever
Exactly.
that is. I'm gonna operate from the place where what I am, who I am, is completely acceptable and in fact brilliant and wonderful. And from there, work with what you got to create more. Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
terrific. Um, Many women, I have worked with several women who are in business, and they also bring to the table some really deep life experience. And at the same time, they have this fear that they've missed their moment, that, oh, they're too late. What would your approach say to them or help them to reclaim their power and to move forward on their vision?
Mhm. Well, I might go back into human design again for that one too, but I feel like all of the things and all of our lived experience gives us that wisdom. And two things that I think about with this. One is that all of the things that we go through, it's almost like a spiral staircase where, we learn a lesson and we go around and ultimately we're going to come back to that thing again. But now we're going to come back to it with all of that knowledge, insight, wisdom that we've picked up along the way. And so now we have a different lens to look at it, a different lens to inspect it. We are coming at it from a different vantage point. And so if we're looking to start a business, sure, maybe in some respects it might have been easier 20 years ago, but also we wouldn't have had the same wisdom. We had to go through certain experiences in order to put us here. I very much believe that, setting aside regret is very beneficial for us because we had to go through experiences. We had to learn those things. And yes, we can look back and say, if I were in that situation now, I wouldn't have made that same decision or I would have done something different. But if we can feel pretty confident that we made the best decision for us at the time with the information and the knowledge and the knowing that we had,
Mhm.
then we can let go of a lot of that regret because we're not this person or we weren't this person 20 years ago, right?
True.
And so for a lot of us also, if we come back to our human design, some of us, the line in our profile. So some of us are a line 6, and a line 6 says that we go through 3 distinct phases of life. And a lot of women come into their third phase at around age 50. So up until age 30, we're kind of bumbling about and bumping into life, and we're having a lot of different experiences, whatever they are. And then we kind of settle down from that 30 to 50, and career is happening and family is happening, and all of the stuff that we've bumped into is kind of just settling, right? And then at 50, we're like, oh, I've learned a lot. I have something I want to share. I need to get this out in the world. Everything else is kind of ticking over, and I can put that on the back burner. The kids are doing their kid thing, and the family's doing the family thing. And I no longer have to pour as much energy into that. I no longer have to pour as much into my career. I've been watching all of this stuff and I've gained a lot of wisdom. And now, with all of that I've picked up along the way, I'm going to come forward and birth something new into the world. And this is when we start oftentimes leading from, a place of wisdom and knowing and becoming, like the sage or the crone. I think we hear the crone spoken about not always very pleasantly, but I think, that the crone archetype is actually the really wise woman that knew a lot, that hung out in the woods, learned all the stuff, and everybody went to her to get their problem solved. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, taking that back and knowing that we might just be coming into that phase of our lives. We know a lot.
We do. We more than likely, in many cases, we underestimate how much we actually do know, the wisdom that we bring to the table. Um,
Very much, yeah. And I think it's again, going back to societal conditioning, youth is very much favored, and there's, when we look at TV shows and all of the societal stuff and cultural stuff that's around us, older women are kind of on the back burner and they're forgotten about. And, we look even at TV shows, you've got an older guy in his 60s and he's dating somebody in her 30s. And,
yeah.
so of course, we're going to internalize that. And women, we do tend to internalize things anyway. And so we think, well, I'm not her. But we've still got a lot of life ahead of us. I'm 52 in a couple of months, and there's a lot of life ahead of me. And just,
I'm 66 and there's a lot of life ahead of me too. So
yeah,
so much for us to do in terms of experiencing the world and joy, but also in terms of making a difference in the world and helping others grow and develop as well.
absolutely.
It's interesting to me because we talk about this idea of alignment and the idea of building a business from a place of alignment with who you are, and how that can branch out into the creation and the growth of a business. The old model that we used to all operate from, or some of us still do, is just this work hard. I've got to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm at my office. I'm working, 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 and just powering my way through. And the sense, at least to me, is that when we build businesses from alignment, it isn't quite so much this toiling away, this hard work and effort. It's not achievement, achievement, achievement. How can you, or would you explain to me more, or explain to our listeners more about what that really means to build a business from alignment?
Yeah. Great question. Absolutely love it. What I do with a lot of my clients is we sort of reverse engineer. So it can be very easy to, like you said, get stuck in toiling. I have to create a website. I have to do this. I have to do this. I want to get it all done by next week. And, we end up spending our whole day in front of our computer, which isn't what we started our businesses for.
Right.
So if we can reverse engineer and say, okay, well, this is what I want my life to look like. This is how I want my life to feel. This is how much time I want to dedicate. We can then reverse engineer. So, what does that then look like in practice? What is possible? What is realistic? What can you achieve? What do you want to achieve? I think we're kind of sold a bill of goods. There was that book, The 4 Hour Work Week, that came out that said, you can get everything done in 4 hours, and that's great. But what nobody talks about is that he had a wife that took care of all the other stuff, and so we also as women take care a lot of the emotional load and a lot of the extra invisible labor in homes and in households. And there's a lot of stuff we need to do. And so, we need to be able to balance what is it that we want our days to look like? How do we really want to spend our time? And what are the most compelling activities and exercises that we can do for return on investment? And that return on investment might not necessarily be making extra money. But, for me, I have learning time scheduled into my week because it can be easy to just send out another email, create a new post, get on another call, and then I'll go for 2 or 3 weeks and realize that I haven't done what really fills my cup, which is spending time learning something new. And so it's in the calendar because it's important to me. I do a lot of work with people on favorite self, and that's kind of, creating that favorite day of what do we want that to look like, and realizing that your sense of alignment doesn't have to be what everyone else says your day should look like. And you are not failing if you work 4 hours a day. You are succeeding. That's all you
Well,
do.
and to
Um,
be honest, I found I can get a lot done in 4 hours when I'm focused, and
mhm.
maybe not as much if I sit at my desk for 8 hours. Yeah.
Yes, I think too, I came out of corporate and I was working easily, 10, 12-hour days, many days out of the week. And so when I first started work as a coach, um, that was my first thing. Okay, I need to buckle down. I need to go do the things. I was lucky enough to be living in Bali, and I would take my laptop and I would go sit at the little local cafe. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, I would open my laptop and I would find stuff to do for 8 hours. And I would be busy. I was busy doing stuff for 8 whole.
Uh-huh.
I
Yes.
don't know what I did. I didn't actually grow my business. And then I got exhausted and burnt out. I had too much information coming in, and I felt like I was lazy if I stepped away early. Here I was in Bali, and I was making myself sit down from 9 till 5. But
Mm.
we also, when we're doing our own work and we're doing stuff that lights us up and we're doing things that give us energy, you know, 9 to 5 in an office, those folks are being distracted by the boss coming and asking a question, by somebody else who needs help, by somebody who's walking by asking to go, grab a coffee. There's a lot of other time that is not necessarily productive time. And so we can be very focused, get done what we need to get done, and there's a whole lot of different strategies that are out there. I know what works great for me. I know it's worked really well for a bunch of my clients, but ultimately, I think it's finding what works well for the individual person based on how they best work, and, playing around with it and finding what works and what doesn't. And then, kind of crafting a schedule that reflects the life and lifestyle that you want to have in your business.
I really like this. It's kind of like putting the vision, the destination first, like you said, reverse engineer it, and then it's like, how does that fit with who you are? And then you meet the two in the middle with what works for you best, but also what gets you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what you want can be huge, or it can be something small, but it's an interesting way to rethink your work. I'm finding as I listen to you speak, I think of myself a lot and how I do my work, and it's like, this is interesting. Okay, well, so if there's a woman listening out there and she feels called to start a business, to do more, to make a contribution, but she's afraid to take that leap because she feels like she's not really strategic enough. She doesn't have all the tech knowledge and she's not current. Maybe she's coming out of a home where she took care of her children forever and now it's her moment and she wants to do this, but she's really afraid. Kristen, what would you say to her?
I would ask her a whole bunch of questions, but I would also say there are a whole lot of people that know all of the tech stuff, and there are a whole lot of people that need her who are also afraid of all the tech stuff, right? Like whatever it is that she's putting out there are people that need what she's doing that have for some reason been put off by or haven't felt like they're gravitating towards all of the other people with their message and their mission who are out there who have the tech part figured out. And there are lots of different ways to find and meet and connect with the people that you want to help and serve. And so people need her wisdom, and it's finding the best way for what it is that she wants to do. You don't need to know a whole lot of the tech stuff. You can get started. It can be a little bit of a messy middle. There's some really simple programs that make life a little bit easier without being super complicated. And it's a quote that I actually really like by Henry Ford, which is wild because I tend to be much more spiritual and he's very like production line. That's what he's known for. Like we need to throw that out. But he's got a great quote. He said this amazing thing, which is whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Exactly. Right.
So you get to decide. And if you decide that there is a way to bring that forward, then there is a way to bring that forward.
I think part of it too is just listening to that little voice that says this is important.
Mm-hmm.
That yes, you are right. This will change, one person's life, five people's lives, 10 people's lives. It doesn't even matter, Um, but listening to that voice and not letting it be overshadowed by the negatives of what I can't do or what I don't know. That I'm who am I? That kind of thing, right?
Yeah, yeah. When I started asking myself, who am I, but with a different reframe, like that was next level in my business because I was like, well, who am I? There's so many coaches out there. There's so many people that have been doing this for longer than me. Who
Mhm.
am I? And I was like, well, but why not me? Like,
An even better question. Why not me?
what
Yes.
what do they have? Like, so who am I? Okay, I'm the person that can do this. I'm the person that has this, different slant or has a different way of approaching it, or just the different words that I use are going to resonate with someone else who hasn't been met by these other people yet. So that's who I am.
Can you share a story of one of your clients, maybe a woman, maybe in her 50s or 60s, who has made a powerful shift and built a business as she has come to realize that she is, in fact, the strategy?
Yes. So one of my clients, you know her well, Trisha. She has gone through a few iterations of her business. And she was coming out of working in a much more, I mean, she's still very much in a, she was doing a service for people and working, with mental health and helping people through their journeys. And she wanted to help people much more specifically in terms of, how they were clearing clutter. And so she started off um, as a professional organizer. And it got to be a little bit tricky because there's a lot of professional organizers out there. And she was a little bit stuck in, okay, so what's my message? How do I bring this to the fore? And how do I bring it to the people who really need what it is that I'm doing? And what we realized through working together is that she had built a successful organizing business, and a lot of the work that she did was much bigger than just the organizing. It was the coaching, it was all of the emotional stuff
Mhm.
that comes along with that. And so what we did together was bridge those two pieces of her wisdom and her knowing and recreate something entirely out of the box that was not the professional organizer and it was not just the coaching. It was how do those two things go together.
Hmm.
And once she had that, which was her own unique voice and her unique slant, that wasn't what everyone else was telling her was going to work, she stood out for being different to everyone else and then attracted the people that she wanted to work with and that wanted to work with her and needed to work with her. And so a big part of the work that we did was dismantling a lot of the shoulds of what the offer should look like and what the messaging should look like and where she should be marketing and how she should be marketing, and saw that she already had all of the right people around her in order to be able to connect with them.
Cool. Okay, great, great. Let me ask you one final question as we start to wrap up our call today. For the woman listening today who wants to start or evolve her business in a deeper way, what is one simple shift that she can make right now to get out of her head and into momentum?
Oh, that is a great question. I love that. Um, Honestly, it's just picking something and starting. So if she's stuck in her head, I would take a look at all the stuff that she's got to get done. A lot of it is going to be scary. And find out what is that pattern that's coming up in her voice, in her head, that is saying you can't do this or don't do that one, and inspect it and say, okay, so where is it coming from? What is that voice really telling me, and what is it trying to protect me from? But if I was to flip it, what would be the opposite? So if it is that voice that is telling me you're too old, right? Maybe on the opposite side, it is, but you've gained a lot of wisdom. And so she can then shift that belief to, I have a lot of wisdom to share. And then once she has that new belief, she can look at all of the things that she has to do or that she wants to do. Like, what's on that list? Well, I'm too scared to talk to people about my offer, or I'm too scared to tell my best friend about it. So, what is the one thing that she can do that is going to move the needle? What is the scary thing that she can do in 5, 10 minutes that is just an action? And maybe it is sending an email to a person saying, hey, I want to have coffee with you and talk to you about this idea that I've got. Can we meet next week? And taking that momentum, taking that very first step is kind of like ripping the band-aid off, and gets the ball rolling. So action begets action. And when we break the cycle that we're in, it creates a new path. So, we can keep going around in circles over and over and over and ruminating and thinking, what's the best way? And what should I do? And what's the thing? And we'll never find the best solution. The best solution is out there, it's outside the circle. And so the best way to create momentum is to pick something and do it. And to have the confidence a little bit, in doing it from a place of wisdom, knowing that it's exploratory and it might not be your final effort, but your purpose in that is to start the momentum and to break that cycle of being stuck.
Well, I like that because, we sometimes we think we're not ready, we're not ready, we're not ready. Everything has to be perfectly aligned, and the reality is it's the movement that takes you to where you need to be,
Mm-hmm.
to the exact moment in time you need to be for everything to happen. And so you just have to trust, have
Yeah,
faith, right? Faith in yourself.
exactly. Have faith, do something. Yeah. Like when we buy a new car, we don't just go and buy the new car. We go and we test drive a couple, and we go down the road and we drive it fast and we drive it slow and we test the brakes. And same thing when we're launching a business. Like we might not get it on the first try. So it's first I'm going to try this one and then I'm going to try that one. I'm going to see what fits me best and which one I like the best. And getting out and doing one of the things is the best way to get started.
Perfect. Okay. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us today. And for me, for my listeners, for sharing such a fresh perspective on business, that it's not about forcing yourself into somebody else's plan or strategy or should, but really it's about building from the truth of who you are. To our listeners, especially those of you in your 50s, 60s, and beyond, I hope that today's conversation reminded you that your wisdom, your lived experience, and your unique way of working aren't just assets, they are your strategy. If you would like to connect more with Kristen and explore her work, you will find her links in the show notes. And if this episode has sparked something in you that maybe an idea you're ready to explore or shift that you've been waiting to make, I too would love to help bring that to life. And you can book a free Connect and Elevate call with me through the link in the show notes as well. Finally, if you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this podcast with another woman who's ready to create her next chapter. We are growing and expanding and would love your support in that way. And at the same time, your support helps more women find the podcast and step boldly into their vision, their dreams. We'd love to hear from you. Message us. What topics, guests, questions would you like to see on the show that would help you grow your business and live your life with purpose? Send your ideas to me by replying to our podcast or through social media. This show is for you. And I thank everyone for listening to Next Chapter CEO. Until next time, please keep leading with your vision because indeed you are the strategy. Thank you, everybody.